Goodreads Editors came out with a list of their top genre picks of the last 5 years, and I thought it would be fun to look at the list together. I'm going to share my honest reviews on all the ones that I've already read, and then you can tell me which ones you would like me to review, because I will be filming a reading vlog getting some more recommendations from that list to see if my tastes align with them. So the first genre on the list is fiction, and out of the 12, I have read 3.5, kinda. It's not my main genre, but I have enjoyed some of them, and I'm curious to see if there's anything else on there that you think I should add to my TBR. So the first book on the list is Wild Dark Shore, which honestly I feel like it's a book that divides people, and I kind of have mixed feelings about it. It's definitely something that you have to like the heavy prose of it. The story, it sounds more exciting than it truly is. You have this mysterious woman who drifts ashore on this remote island, who there's only this one family that is left. You have this father and his 3 children, and in both the family of that man and this woman, there seem to be some hidden past, some secrets, and over time, as they are stuck on this island together for a while, things start to come out. So it seems like it's going to be very mysterious, but it's definitely a book that is very character driven, again, heavy on the prose and the vibes. Personally, I had some issues about some decisions the characters are making, but overall I can see the appeal of it. It's not my main genre, like I liked it, but I didn't love it. The next book I did read and enjoy is Martyr, which if my life depended on it, I could not pronounce that word without hearing it first. It's the same word in French, it's not my fault. But this one is a little inspired by the author's life, and it took me by surprise by how much I enjoyed it. So the main character is newly sober. He's the orphan son of an Iranian immigrant. His father moved with them after his mother died in an incident, a plane incident, which is inspired actually by the author's life. I didn't know at first, but it's a pretty depressing book, but he's trying to make sense of his life. He's definitely very lost. The writing is heavy on the poetic kind of lyrical prose, because again, the author does write poems. It's almost slice of life, little events, almost essays through the novel. But yes, it took me by surprise by how much I enjoyed it. I feel like normally it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but because of the hype, I had tried it and I understand why it's popular. So the reason I said half, it's because the sentence, I am currently in the middle of it. It is part of what I like to call my pile of shame. So I started it and never finished it. To be fair, I was kind of in a reading slump last year, but what I'm enjoying it so far, it's very character driven, it is slower paced, but it's also a little bit inspired by the author's life, because this takes place probably in her own bookshop in Minneapolis. So the main character works in that bookshop, and one of their annoying customer passes away, and she is feeling haunted by her in the store. So that's kind of where I was at. The main character is very likable, she's very quirky, but yes, I need to finish it, but so far I was enjoying it, so not the book's fault. It's definitely all on me. And the last book that I have finished is Demon Copperhead. I feel like for me this is another book that everyone seems to love and I liked, but that's it. It is inspired by the classic David Copperfield, which I haven't read, so I don't know if that plays into my enjoyment. It is set in the mountain of southern Appalachia. The main character is dealing with a difficult family history, addiction, foster care, and I found the book a little long, to be honest, and I felt like the ending was almost too fast. So I wasn't as emotionally invested as I wanted to, but it's very, very popular. On average, I think the rating right now is 4.46. So it is super beloved. Again, fiction is not necessarily my main genre. I did like it, just not 5-star, loved it. Out of the other ones, I am planning on reading Cursed Daughters because I had enjoyed another book by the author, so that's her newest release. Definitely want to check it out. It has been getting some really good reviews, I'm curious. I also have never read any Anne Pratchett, which I feel like that's a must if you want to read fiction, so Tom Lake is probably going to be the one I pick. I would love to hear your thoughts on the other ones, if you've read them, if you would recommend them. The next category is historical fiction, which is also not my main genre, but I have read one and I gave it 5-star. So I am tempted to try more on that list because I might find some favorites. And it is There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak, which I adore her. This is her newest release and it is my favorite. It is on a slower pace side, so I would say give yourself the first half if you're unsure about the story. You're following 3 point of views and they seem very disjointed. All the water seems to be connecting the stories. She tends to do that. She'll have multiple stories and then she will have some kind of magical realism element that will connect the stories. So one point of view is set in the 1800s. You're following a boy being born in a very poor section of London, trying to become something, make something of his life. You're following another character who is born next to the river Tigris, hearing the myth and legends and stories from her grandmother, and then another story of this woman who studies rivers, which this is where water connects the stories, and she is very depressed. She is making some big decisions, wanting a divorce, trying to disconnect herself from everyone in her life because of what she's going through. And eventually, again, all the stories connect, and I just adored it. Highly recommend her as an author, and like I said, this is my favorite by her. It's making me trust the other recommendations on that section. So I have seen Junie going around, so if you recommend that one, definitely let me know. I do have on my shelf The Lion Women of Tehran, so definitely something I will be thinking about reading this week. I have been recommended so many times The Frozen River as an historical fiction. Again, it's not my main genre, so I am always open to trying some. I don't necessarily get a ton of recommendations, so that's on my waiting list at the library, so I will get to it this year for sure. But is there anything else you think I should try? Definitely leave us your recommendations in the comment section. For the mystery thriller section, that's definitely more my cup of tea. So out of the 12, I have read 4.5. So the first book on that list is The God of the Woods, which I want to say that putting it in that section is probably doing this book a disfavor. It's actually the third book I've read by the author. So the first two I had picked, I didn't realize it was the same author. Both times I was a little disappointed because I expected a mystery or a thriller, and it's more family drama. So if you keep that in mind, I think you're going to enjoy this book a lot more. I was prepared at that time because, again, it was the third time, so I knew what to expect. So in this one, you're following a family who used to own a summer camp close to a smaller town, and their son disappeared years ago. So is it a murder mystery? They just never found the body. They never got answers. And then years later, they decide to reopen it, and their daughter disappears. And again, is this happening again? What's going on? So it seems very intense of a plot, but again, it's very slow-paced, character-driven, family drama, secrets, small town, what's going on. So if you go into it expecting that, I think you're going to enjoy it a lot more. And summer's approaching. It would be perfect against summer camp, so I did really enjoy that one. Next, we have All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby, which I have read 4 of his books, and every time I'm like, I don't think I'm the target audience, but then I keep picking up another one and enjoying it, so I think I just have to accept that, again, they might not be my main thing, but they work. Usually he's writing a small town murder mystery. They're usually quite violent, which is why I'm saying it's not necessarily my main thing, but he convinces you to care about these characters that are often morally gray, and it's just so engaging that you have to finish it. So that's not my number one by him. It's still Razorblade Tears. I think most people that's their favorite, but I would still recommend checking that out. I technically did borrow from the library Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, but I instantly found out through the audiobook it was not going to work for me, so I returned it. So that one is more of a cozy murder mystery. It might be your thing. Bright Young Women really took me by surprise by how much I enjoyed it. It is inspired by Ted Bundy's murders, and I don't tend to really be a crime reader, but this one really worked for me. You're following multiple timeline point of views and the court case, which is very intense. But I like that the author used some things that are more real life events. We're just going to keep it at that. I enjoyed her personal views. I feel like sometimes you don't want to hear what the author has to say, but in that case, I really did. So I would recommend that one. Definitely worth the hype. It's making me trust that list. But my personal favorite in that category has to be The Violent Conspiracy. This had been on my shelf for a couple of years. I kind of had forgotten about it, and I finally picked it up last year, and it made it to my best books of the year. Again, it's one of those books that, yeah, it's a mystery, but if you go into it expecting that, something intense, it's not going to work. So you have to go into it, again, expecting more family drama, maybe a little bit of social commentary. So the main character, the story starts with him getting ready for the biggest music competition of his life when his very expensive violin is stolen. So yes, it is, the mystery of what happened to his violin. But then you go back in time to him discovering his love of music, trying really hard to be able to have access to a violin, to try and make money, a name for himself as a young black man in a deeply classist and racist at time institution. So it's a lot of that throughout the novel, and like his family not being on his side. So there's a lot of family drama also, but yes, I adored it. So yes, technically it's a mystery, but you have to expect something different to enjoy it. So yeah, 5-star, loved it. I feel like I often disagree with Goodreads' list of mystery thriller recommendations. They tend to be more popcorn reads than what I usually go for, but because I've enjoyed all the ones that I have read, except one, I am really willing to try some of these. Unfortunately, the waiting list at the library is very long for all of these, so it might not happen next week in the reading vlog, but currently I have on my waiting list at the library The Ghostwriter, Heartwood, and It's Not Her. Should I try Happiness Falls? I have tried another book by the author and I did enjoy it. So if you have read any of these other ones and you enjoy them, definitely let me know. But there is no McFadden on this list. It makes me trust it a little bit more. I know she's really popular, but her writing really does not work for me. The next category is romance and romantasy, which is not my main genre. I do want to try a few more this summer just to see, but on that list I've only tried one of them, and it is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I have read a lot of her books. It's been hit and miss, but overall I have enjoyed them, including this one. So the premise is definitely out there to be interesting. The main character is a fiancé, and her fiancé tells her, actually, we can get married. I'm in love with my girl best friend, which is like the worst twist. And she also leaves her boyfriend to become, a couple. So she decides to move in and kind of fake date the best friend's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, and maybe things develop there. Maybe. It was a good one. I like her banter, so that was a decent one. I don't really have any other ones on that list on my TBR, but if there are any that you think are worth it, definitely let me know. Actually, I do have another book by Tia Williams on my shelf. 7 Days in June, so that one I will check out, but it's not on the list. The fantasy section really intrigues me because I have read a couple, but the other ones I find that I haven't seen them going around, so there might be some hidden gems. Some of them have very low amounts of ratings, so again, maybe some hidden gems. The first one I have read is The Raven Scholar, which I think was a really fun kind of fantasy. It is the first book in a series. I'm curious to see if it's going to sustain my interest, but book one was great. Main character is a scholar, and she is sucked into this competition to become the new emperor or empress, but she is technically supposed to solve the murder mystery because one of the competitor was murdered, and she is stuck replacing them and stuck trying to survive the trials, which are deadly, and at the same time figuring out who did that, what's going on. I also read The Jasmine Throne, which I have enjoyed. This one is more Indian inspired. I really like how there are multiple, morally gray sometimes, female characters. They're not always on the same side, so it's really interesting to see how they act, their characters' progression, because I have read book 2 also. And the magic system is really intriguing. The magic seems to be linked with gods and nature and women being burnt. There's more to it, but that's definitely what's happening. There's a little bit of sapphic romance also, so yes, I did really enjoy that one. There's also The Will of the Many, which I have seen absolutely everywhere. That one is definitely one that everyone has seen, everyone has read, myself included. I actually read it twice because I felt the need to reread it before reading book 2, and I basically never reread books, so that's definitely proving that this is a really solid book. The main character is hiding away because his royal family was murdered by the hierarchy when they were conquered, and he ends up being sucked into this murder mystery. This powerful man's brother was murdered in school, so he sends him to the school where he has to try and survive, again, the classes that are very deadly, trying to not make too many enemies, still hiding his identity. So there's so much that happens in book 1. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Great friendships, great characters growth in that one also. The last one I have read is The Shadow of the Gods, which in this one, it's Norse-inspired world where old gods died, maybe, 300 years ago, and you have some people that have their magic in their blood, which they are in hiding because people are enslaving them with these colors. So you have multiple point of views, one of them being this woman trying to save her son who was kidnapped because of that blood. There's a lot of walking, preparing for this war, finding the gods that seems to be happening. I just actually read book 2, and it's again a lot of walking. It's another series that everyone seems to love, and personally I just like it. I ended up counting how many times the author said thought cage in book 2, which it was 36 times, so it tells you something. With that said, there are multiple books on this list that I haven't seen going around, so maybe I haven't been keeping up with the new releases for fantasy, or maybe again, these aren't as popular, but these editors love. So if you have anything to recommend me from that list, I would be very curious. I do want to try The Everlasting because I have tried other books by the author, and I'm not sure how I feel about her yet, so this might be a good one. It has been getting some really good reviews. My library also have The Witch Rose, so I might try that one. This one only has less than 2,000 ratings, so it's definitely not that well known, but if they like it enough to put it on this list, might be worth checking out. The next category is horror, and I have read 5 out of 12, surprisingly. The first one is The Reformatory, which I just read this year and loved it. If you haven't read it, you need to. It's definitely worth it. It's got a historical fiction horror. It's set in Florida in 1950, so it is during the Jim Crow laws. And in this one, you're following these two children, a 16-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy. Their mother passed away, and their father he was run out of town because of his views, again, Jim Crow. And as they are walking to school, the neighbor's kid decides to hit on the little girl. Well, she's 16, but still, he's being inappropriate, so the brother decides to kick him on the knee. Of course, they're black, he's white, so he is sent in front of a judge, and he is sent to the reformatory for 6 months. However, there are a lot of horror stories coming out of this place, so his sister tries to get him out as soon as possible, and he's trying to survive some possible torture, kids dying there, and there are some ghosts. It's not like a ghost story. I could not put it down. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. It is definitely worth the hype. How Are Wives Under the Sea, though? This is another one that seems to divide people. People either absolutely adore it, or like me, they kind of just don't really see the hype. It's another one actually that is really heavy on the prose, so if you enjoyed The Wild Dark Shore I was mentioning, I feel like similar-ish writing styles. If one works for you, the other one might also. In this one, you're following this couple. One woman is in this submarine that falls into the bottom of the ocean, and then when she comes back, she is different. Things are weird. They don't really talk to each other. It's very much vibes. That's the best way to explain it. Character driven, but yeah, I lost interest. I only finished it because it was an audiobook, so personally didn't work for me. So if you like these kind of strange books that are heavy on the prose, this might work for you. One strange that did work for me though is We Used to Live Here. This one is absolutely worth the hype for me. You're following a couple who just bought this house kind of remote, and one day there's only one at home when this family comes up and the man says, "I used to live here. Do you mind if we check around?" She says yes, because she's a people pleaser, and things start getting very weird very quickly. One kid decides to go for the basement, which, like, never go to the basement. That's just automatically creepy to me. There are kind of paranormal things happening. I don't want to say too much because I feel like the less you know, the better. But yes, things are weird. There are literally people having threads online trying to figure out what's going on. You don't get all the answers, but enough that it was really satisfying, and yeah, I absolutely adored it. I recommended it to a few people, and some of my friends could not finish it because they were too scared. So if that's your thing, definitely check it out. The Eyes Are the Best Part is another book that I could not finish. I think that once again it was miscategorized. I feel like expecting horror elements when it was more like daughter of a Korean immigrant life for the first like third of the book, which is after that I gave up, before things eventually get more interesting. I think it becomes more like female rage revenge story, which is what I wanted to get. That's why I picked it up, but I couldn't finish it. So I don't know if it's worth pushing through, but I couldn't do it. So. And the last one I read in that category is Lone Women, which again seems to be receiving some mixed reviews. I've read a couple of his books and I have enjoyed them. However, this one, I loved the first half and I completely lost interest in the second one. So you have this woman who is, again, it's a bit historical fiction. She's moving around in the US with this big trunk and she's telling people do not open it. So things aren't happening because, again, horror, but I felt like it went in a weird direction, and like I said, I kind of lost interest. So that one, don't really recommend it. I mean, it might work for you, but it wasn't my favorite on the list. However, there are a few on that list that I do want to pick up, and if you've read them and you recommend them, again, let us know. The Buffalo Hunter, is that one worth it? I've been seeing that cover a lot. I do have on my waiting list at the library Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. I've also been wanting to try Our Share of Night, or any books really by this author. I've seen her everywhere. I just have yet to pick one up. And I have also seen Monstrilio going around. It's been getting some good reviews, so I might pick that up soon. I think the category that intrigues me the most is sci-fi. I am a big science fiction reader. However, I've only read one, and I've barely heard anything about most of these. So if you have any opinions, let me know. I feel like a lot of the recent ones, sci-fi, they haven't been getting a lot of great reviews. They seem to have great covers though, which is appealing, but yeah, really mixed reviews in general. So the only one that I have read is the first one on the list, and it is How High We Go in the Dark. It is a post-apocalyptic book, but it feels very different because they're almost like different stories, essays from that event that is happening, different characters. Some of them are linked, some of them are not. I feel like the one chapter that really stood out to me was the one with the amusement park. I'm going to keep that vague. That one is still definitely burned into my mind. So that one I would recommend. And the other ones, I would love to hear your thoughts because I haven't heard that much. And in general, they seems to have very, very mixed reviews. Like The School for Good Mothers, I had seen it going around, but the average rating is 3.43, which isn't the worst. I feel like I don't always agree with the average rating, but just generally speaking, it's kind of low. But a few of these actually have less than 5 or 10,000 ratings, so they don't seem to be as well known. So I would be curious to see if they are worth trying. I definitely will. And then there's a really long category for nonfiction. I have read 9 of them. Basically, almost none of the others I have been adding to my TBR. So if you have any recommendations, I would love to hear them. But the first one I have read, and it is Doubleganger by Naomi Klein. I actually read this year. 5-star. Loved it. Loved her brain. Essentially, this book seems to be 2 different stories almost in one, but she starts by talking about how during COVID, a lot of people have been going to extremes online, right? The radicalization of people. But at the same time, she talks about someone that she's been confused with a lot online, which is Naomi Wolf. So Naomi Klein, Naomi Wolf. And they seem to have similar ideas overall at first, but then again, during COVID, she has been taking a turn and people have been confusing her with her, and things have been going to, again, extremes. People have this saying now online, Naomi Klein, you're fine, Naomi Wolf, oof. I ended up really enjoying, to the point I got The Shock Doctrine, which is her most popular novel, and I will be reading that, so highly recommend. I also just listened to the audiobook of Poverty by America, which is the second one on that list. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. It's quite short. I think it was 6 hours, and it talks about who benefits from poverty in the US and just kind of debating these questions. I highly recommend that, and I'm planning on reading more by the author. The next one I have read is The Message, which this author in general tends to mix essays, memoir elements with opinions, kind of travel writing, social commentary. I've seen a few interviews with this author and I do recommend it. It was good. Crying in H Mart is a memoir. Again, I don't read a ton of them, but this one is as a daughter of an immigrant, difficult relationship with her mother. Do recommend it. The Disordered Cosmos. I could have sworn this was much older than 2021, but I read it when it came out, so it feels like years ago. The full title is actually A Journey into Dark Matter, Space, Time, and Dream Deferred, which this was badly marketed because it was sold to me as like a science kind of novel, nonfiction, but turns out is way more of a memoir again, and it's more about as a Black woman trying to become an astrophysicist and going into science, what she had to deal with, which is still an interesting topic, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. I also did enjoy reading One Day Everyone Will Always Have Been Against This, which is again another mix of memoir, journalism, cultural critique of current events. I really enjoyed it. It took me a couple days to read the first couple pages, and then I read the whole thing in a day. So definitely popular for a reason. I did enjoy The New Age of Sexism, how AI and emerging technologies are reinventing misogyny. This author in general, I love her. I really hope she has a good therapist because my gosh, the things that she's done for research. A few things really stuck with me, like she would go to places to see robots, like sex robots being used, and just writing this research journalism about the topic. And again, fascinating but kind of traumatizing. And of course, I feel like everyone has, but I have read I'm Glad My Mom Died, which is a memoir. Again, I don't read a ton, I swear, but it seems like I've read a lot of the ones mentioned here. The author is a famous celebrity, and she had a very complicated relationship with her mother, so would recommend. So once again, if you have any recommendations from that list, I would love to hear them. Currently, I do have on my TBR Empire of Pain, Everything is Tuberculosis, and The Song of the Cell. So I feel like in general, Goodreads' list of recommendations can be a bit hit and miss for me, but I feel like there are way more hit than miss in that list. So that's why I will be doing a reading vlog, picking a couple books from the list, and hopefully I will find a couple new favorites. Let me know which ones you would like me to get to, and I will be posting it on the screen when it's up. It's the next video. And if instead you want to see me torture myself and read some of the 449 unread books on my shelf, definitely check out my last Read It or Unhaul It, and I will see you there. Bye.